Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to those who are gathered here in the sanctuary and to all who are joining us online today. We begin this morning with a musical prelude from the wonderful John Mayhood. Preaching today?
I'm sure nobody would take it, but I put.
How's that? How's that? How's that? There I am. So I'm Reverend Tim, the guy who's still learning how to use AV. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm pleased to be leading the service this morning with the wonderful Linda Dukes, music director Scott DeVoe, accompanist John Mayhood, and the fabulous UUCville Choir. This sanctuary was built over 70 years ago on the homeland of the Monacan people and was once cared for by enslaved people from Africa and their descendants. We honor all who have dwelt here and all in our congregation whose lives led to this moment of our gathering. I invite us now to take a moment to greet others. Those online may unmute, and those here in the sanctuary or social hall are welcome to greet your neighbors, especially those you may not know.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody.
We offer a special welcome to newcomers and invite you to join us for fellowship after the service in the social hall. Feel free to use one of our red coffee mugs, and UUCville members and friends are reminded to offer a warm welcome to anyone with a red mug. There is a live stream of the service in the social hall, and while everyone is welcome here in the sanctuary, the social hall can be a good option if you need a roomier space. Many thanks to all the folks helping us to share worship both here and online, the greeters, the ushers, the hospitality team, and of course, our special thanks to the wonderful Rachel Buckland. And now you, I always give Rachel a hard time. I say, you get more applause in this congregation than I do. So, and I think I heard a second. And now we have greetings from board member Bev Ryan. Woohoo! Bev, you can just use that mic.
Okay, I don't have anything from the board to share with you today. But I do want to let you all know that I spent the last week with 17 of my best friends who are associated with the church, not all members, but have been associated. And we were at the beach in Sandbridge, Virginia. We had beautiful weather. We played cards all the time, and we ate and had just a blast. So I hope everybody else gets a good vacation.
Thank you, Bev. Here are a few announcements. Are you new to Unitarian Universalism or to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville? If you answered yes to either of those questions, join me and several of our lay leaders at 12:15 for our monthly newcomer circle. We will be meeting on the patio near the back door of the social hall, overlooking the Remembrance Garden. So just grab some coffee, grab some popcorn, and join us at 12:15. It only lasts for 30 minutes and it's relaxed and fun. An important announcement from the UUCville Ministry for Earth. Save November 17th and 18th on your calendars for the UUCville's Climate Justice Revival. Together, we'll envision the world we want, acknowledge the hurdles to getting there, and make a plan to do just that. Adult, youth, and children's programming is planned. For more information, stop by the Ministry for Earth table after today's service and make sure you chat with Kim and or Ellie. Raise your hands. There's Kim. Oh, there's Ellie. She's up in the clouds. Okay. Final announcement, as many of you know, Sean Scally has served as our Director of Finance and Administration for the last 5 years. Sean's last day with us will be this coming Thursday, and we have a really big card for you to sign after the service in the social hall. So please take a moment to thank Sean for all of his good work and to wish him well going forward. And I'm very pleased to share that you will very likely see Sean from time to time as a backup for our AV tech team when Rachel gets one of her well-deserved Sundays off. So please do stop by and sign that card. Friends, we come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories, different realities, and yet we come together as one community, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, and to bring wholeness to a fractured world. May we be reminded that we are a people taught by different stories, with many voices, but always one community, working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Come, let us worship together. As our service begins, I'd now like to invite Carrie and Marisol to come forward to light our flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. And will you now please join with me in saying our chalice lighting words? We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. And now our words that accompany our hand motions. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open minds, This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving hearts. So now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, which is really more of a chant. Scott, are we going to try to do a round? All right. So, okay, first we'll sing it together. I now would like to, there I am, invite our children, the young at heart, those who miss being young or miss being a child. I'm one of those. So come on down for a short story I'd like to share with you. Come on down. Don't be shy. Good morning. Good morning. Sitting down is the easy part. It's getting up that's tough. Come on down. Oh, you guys see yourselves. Yeah. Come on down. All right. Hi. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So I want to share a story with you this morning by a colleague, a minister colleague of mine named Reverend Chris Bice. And the name of the story, it's a word we don't use a lot, but it's a word I'm sure you all know. The title of the story is Enemies. Enemies. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who was the queen of an island. One day, one of her assistants, one of her advisors, said to her, "Your Majesty, the people on this island, our island, are good, but we must beware of the people on the next island because they are our enemies." "Our enemies," responded the young queen. "How terrible." "Yes, it is terrible," said the advisor, "for our little island will never be safe while those enemies are on that other island. We need to find a way to protect ourselves. Maybe we can even get rid of them." "You are quite right," said the queen. "Do you have any ideas?" "I do indeed," said the advisor. "We can take an army, put it on a ship, sail it to that island, and arrest everybody and make sure they never live on that island again." That doesn't sound good, no. The queen wasn't sure this was a good idea. "Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts," she said, but I need to think about this some more. Can you come back tomorrow? Yes, Your Majesty. And her advisor bowed his head and left. He came back the next day, and when he walked into the room to talk to the queen, he was shocked to find her having tea with the queen from the other island. He got really, really mad. His face got all red. He said to the queen, "How can you sit there and drink tea with that person? She is our enemy. She needs to leave. We must get rid of her." The queen looked at her advisor with eyes that were very calm and steady. She said, "You have been a good advisor, and you were right. We have to get rid of our enemies. You want me to fight with them with an army, but I think the best way to get rid of your enemies is to make them your friends." That is smart. Yeah. What do you guys think about that story? Yes.
Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That's true. I think that's true. Yes, Karina.
I've never actually had an enemy, but if somebody was actually an enemy, I'd be like, okay.
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite thing?
So
Show them with kindness.
Karina said she never had an actual enemy, but if she did, she would try to talk to them, and did you say kill them with kindness? Sounds good. I like that last part. Yes.
So I have plenty of enemies, none of which this works on.
Really? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I've tried this multiple times,
It just isn't working, huh?
never works.
Yeah, the world's a complicated place. It is, it is. You have something to say? Yes.
I usually just stick it, but I don't know.
You don't know what you wanted to say? Okay, that's all right.
One day my honey, that she didn't know what to do.
Uh-huh.
She didn't know what to do.
Okay. She didn't know what to do. Last one, June.
So I have one enemy that like, no matter what I do, I can't get rid of.
I see. Somebody just can't stop being an enemy. I understand. Well, I think this was, I want to thank you all for sharing your ideas. And I think your comments make a really important point, which is that when we know someone who maybe isn't our friend and that we have a hard relationship with, maybe we think of them as an enemy, maybe not. It can be, sometimes we can try, but we just don't seem to be able to repair our relationship. But I think the important lesson from the story is, even though many of you are right, that sometimes what the queen did doesn't work, that it's so important that we at least try. And I'm glad you've tried, and I'm sorry it hasn't worked, but I hope you'll keep trying. So, and you've also tried, I understand.
Tried to kill them with kindness.
You tried killing them with kindness. Well, you can always keep trying kindness. All right, well, thank you all very much. And it's time to send you off to your religious education groups. So can we sing our children out? Wow. Thank you, choir. Might not be the appropriate adjective given how beautiful that song was, but our choir rocks. I mean, they really do. For our time of centering this morning, I'd like to share some words from Kenneth Langer. Let me find peace within so that I may be calm throughout. Let me find silence within so that I may find compassion throughout. Let me be reminded that some things are worth waiting for. Let me be reminded that the journey matters so much more than reaching a destination. Let me see that non-doing is as much a part of life as doing. Let me be reminded that it is in these moments of holding on that I can find quietude and renewal. It is within those moments of inaction that I can find rest. It is in times of emptiness that I can become full. I'd like to invite us to remain seated as we sing our meditation hymn, Spirit of Life. Friends, we are an interconnected community that cares for one another. Part of how we embody this care is by making time each week to share the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts. Everyone is now invited to come forward as you wish and place a glass stone in our communal bowl of water as a symbolic act of each being held by the larger love that holds us all. Everyone is welcome to participate, including those who are new to our congregation. Those online may type their joys or sorrows into the chat. Patty Wallens from our pastoral care team is coming forward to help hold the space. Patty will be available for a few minutes after the service in the back corner of the sanctuary if you would like pastoral support or just need someone this morning to listen. Those worshiping online can contact the pastoral care team at pastoral@ucharlottesville.org. Let us now begin our ritual of joys and sorrows. This community offers its love and support to what is closest to our hearts. Another way we show our care for one another is in sharing our financial gifts with our community and our congregation. Our social action collection for the month of October is for Pacham. Pacham, as many of you know, provides emergency shelter and services in partnership with faith organizations in the community to alleviate the challenges facing those who are unhoused. Pacham has welcomed over 1,800 neighbors in need into our community shelter spaces, including the UU Congregation of Charlottesville, since 2004, and helped nearly 500 move directly from shelter to permanent housing. Rachel, will you please show us the social action slide for giving for those who would like to make an online donation right now? In addition to giving online, if you'd like to give today with cash or check, please use the social action collection envelopes here in the sanctuary and place your offering in the collection plate. And please make your checks out to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville and write social action collection in the memo line. Along with the social action collection, we invite everyone to financially support the ministries and mission of this congregation. Through your pledges and the weekly Sunday morning offering, together, our financial gifts support UUCville and enable us to put love into action. This is our shared ministry. During the music that follows, you can offer your financial support by using the text address or going to our website. You may also place cash or checks in the collection plate as they are passed. So now let us now dedicate all of the many gifts we share with one another by saying, we accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely for the highest good.
Our reading is adapted from a blog post a couple of weeks ago written for Rosh Hashanah by Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, the senior minister at Middle Church in New York City. Reverend Lewis is one of the most influential and important progressive religious voices in this country, and she's also been a frequent speaker at the Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly. Here are her words. Let this year and its curses end. Let the new year and its blessings begin. This last year has been cursed with hard things, difficult truths, broken hearts. Though I am not Jewish, I want a new year. My head is bowed in sorrow for the 1 year later truths of October 7th, 2023. The horror, death, sexual violence, and shock of the attack on Israel that day haunts me. I know friends whose family died or were kidnapped or whose colleagues died. My prayers are with those who mourn, with those who have empty seats at the table, with those whose sense of security and safety were shaken, for those who do not yet know the fate of their family members in bondage. My prayers are also with my Palestinian family and friends who have watched the bombing and destruction in Gaza, the catastrophic loss of life, safety, security, and belonging. For those whose beloved were killed in schools, in shelters, in hospitals, for the thousands upon thousands of casualties, for the broken buildings and bodies, bombed by weapons paid for by U.S. tax dollars. I weep with you and pray with you. My prayers are offered with tears, with a broken heart, with the first-hand eyewitnessing of what occupation looks like, what life feels like, what checkpoints and barbed wires and settlements and fear and violence and wounding looks like in Palestine. And I am committed to this truth. These people, all these people, are my family. They are all human. They all deserve love and dignity and a place to call home. I weep almost every day at the escalating, new and old conflicts that lead to death and destruction. I pray we find a way to see our connections, to believe that we are kin, and that our surviving will only happen when love guides us rather than hatred and war. I pray for a free Palestine and an Israel that thrives alongside, with freedom as well. I pray that no one, not Israelis, Palestinians, or Lebanese, anyone in the region, I pray that no one lives with terror and bombing. We cannot bomb our way to peace.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing those extraordinarily powerful words from Reverend Jackie Lewis. Linda emailed me Reverend Jackie's blog post a week or so ago, saying she found it very moving, and also sharing a sentiment I've heard from a number of you over the last year, namely that our congregation needs to address the war in Israel and Palestine. Let me just begin by saying that the sermon and service title that I advertised in the newsletter, that's not the sermon you're going to hear this morning. With Linda's urging and the urging of a number of you, I decided to go in a different direction. So let me begin by saying that I completely agree with Linda that our congregation needs to say and do something. I have felt that way since the tragic events of October the 7th, 2023, when Hamas launched a murderous assault that took the lives of 1,200 Jews, injured and traumatized countless others, and took hundreds hostage, some of whom are still being held captive. The attack of October the 7th was the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and the wounds it inflicted, both physical and emotional, will undoubtedly last for many years to come. My feeling that our congregation needed to respond grew as Israel responded to the October the 7th attacks with one brutal act of violence after another, killing tens of thousands of Palestinians, including countless children. In the name of national defense, Israel has committed what amounts to war crimes, and its prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is in fact under indictment by the International Criminal Court. But in spite of my feelings that we needed to do something, I have remained largely silent from this pulpit, and we as a congregation have not done or said very much about the war, although I know some of you, perhaps many of you, have taken action yourselves and offered support for organizations seeking to alleviate the suffering in Gaza. I confess that when I've been asked, well, why isn't the church doing more or saying more? I've hesitated and felt at times a little defensive. As a UU minister, I've always tried to speak out against violence, against injustice, and against oppression. I've always tried to find ways for the congregation I'm serving to make a positive difference, no matter how small. But in this instance, I've struggled, feeling uncertain and anxious. As I began to put this morning's sermon together, I kept reminding myself to do my best not to repeat my defensiveness or to make excuses for my silence and inaction. The simple truth is there is no defense for silence in the face of such horrific violence, and I want to acknowledge that I have fallen short as a religious leader, as a Unitarian Universalist, and most importantly, as a human being who has a moral responsibility to stand against violence and injustice. But I do want to take a moment to share with you some of what has challenged me since the war began, and that has led me to respond, or perhaps I should say, not respond as I have. To put it simply, I have felt uncertain and stayed largely quiet because Unitarian Universalists are deeply, deeply divided about Israel and Palestine, and have been for quite some time. There are some UUs who feel strongly and passionately that the Palestinian people have been colonized on land that is rightfully theirs, and that in the face of decades of oppression, imprisonment, and terrible acts of violence, it is time to free Palestine. At the other end of the debate, there are also Unitarian Universalists who feel strongly that Israel has an unshakable right to exist, a right to defend itself, and after thousands of years of anti-Semitism, oppression, and genocide, the Jewish people must have a homeland where they can be safe and free. And of course, there are Unitarian Universalists, myself included, who find truth on both sides of this debate and who are hoping and praying for an outcome that echoes Reverend Jackie Lewis's plea for a free Palestine and an Israel that thrives alongside, with freedom as well. Now, disagreement among ourselves must never be an excuse for silence or inaction. But I will say that our disagreements over Israel-Palestine are deeply felt and emotionally fraught. Over the last 10 or 15 years, for example, a number of resolutions have been put before our annual Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly that have sought to move Unitarian Universalism in a somewhat less neutral, more pro-Palestinian direction. And each of those resolutions, until this past June, have been voted down. To give you just one important example, at the General Assembly in 2016, a resolution was put forward calling on our denomination, meaning the association, not to buy stocks in companies deemed to be complicit in the subjugation of the Palestinian people. That resolution, led to a response from the then national leader of the Reformed Jewish movement. Remember, this is the liberal wing of Judaism, who told General Assembly delegates that adopting such a divestment resolution would cause long-term damage to UU Jewish relations and be seen by the overwhelming majority of our American Jewish siblings as, and I quote here, as ultimately an effort to delegitimize the very existence of the state of Israel. Needless to say, the debate which followed was contentious and divisive, and those on both sides left feeling hurt, and some even feeling betrayed. The resolution, although receiving a slim majority of the delegates' votes, did not receive the required 2/3 majority to be adopted. And I must say that those feelings of hurt and betrayal have certainly resurfaced since the war began on October the 7th. Statements coming from the Unitarian Universalist Association and from our latest General Assembly, held this past June online, have focused heavily on the toll the war has taken on Palestinian lives and have boldly called for the suspension of American military aid and the imposition of stiff economic sanctions against Israel. While those statements have condemned the loss of Israeli lives on October the 7th and called for the release of all hostages, those condemnations have felt to some, and they felt this way to me, as being somewhat muted and perfunctory. I will add that some UUs have been angered and made to feel unwelcome by what they have seen as the one-sidedness coming from our national association, and have even gone so far as to discontinue longstanding financial support for the UUA. At the same time, I think it's equally fair to say that when it comes to speaking truth to power about the decades-long human rights abuses committed by Israel in the occupied territories in the name of safety and security, many Unitarian Universalists, myself included, have remained quiet and cautious. We've allowed fear of division inside our faith to prevent us from speaking honestly and truthfully about the conflict. Other liberal progressive denominations like the United Church of Christ, the Society of Friends, the Quakers, they have been far ahead of us in terms of speaking out and taking action, although those actions have somewhat predictably strained their relations with much of the American Jewish community. So let me be clear. Contrary to my actions over the preceding year, silence is and must never be an option. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, a time comes when silence is betrayal. You may recall that Dr. King uttered those words when he famously broke his silence about US involvement in the Vietnam War. His decision to speak out wasn't easy, and it cost Dr. King numerous white liberal friends and supporters. But after considerable reflection, study, and a whole lot of prayer, Dr. King felt he had no choice but to speak out because conscience demanded it. Unitarian Universalism has a long history of social activism, a history for which I and many of us are proud. But it's important to remember that our activism has never come easy, and that we were never of one mind about virtually every stand or action we have taken, whether it was the abolition of slavery, women's rights, opposition to war, civil rights and racial justice, immigrant rights, and yes, peace and justice in Israel and Palestine. Those movements required a whole lot of discussion, learning, listening, humility, and the courage to question assumptions and challenge biases. It was hard work then, and it is certainly hard work today. I, for one, am ready for some hard work. I am certainly no expert on Israel and Palestine, and I have so much to learn. And I'll say that one of the great challenges in learning about and then taking action on this conflict is how stark the disagreements, the differences, and the very narratives of what has happened and what is happening, how different they are. To give you just one example, for the last year, really since last October, I have searched and searched for a book that would take into account both the Israeli and Palestinian perspectives in talking about the history and roots of the conflict. I may have finally found that book. Here's a picture of it, Enemies and Neighbors by Ian Black. I'm not recommending you go out and buy it. I'm just sort of getting started on it. It's about 600 pages. Certainly couldn't find a brief book. But as this author says so well, most accounts of the conflict have virtually erased the existence and humanity of the other side. I refuse to do that. So much of what is written is driven by ideology rather than evidence, condemnation rather than understanding, and a need to demonize the other rather than affirming a shared humanity. That polarization, that really one-sided writing of history, has shifted somewhat in recent years, but I still feel it is hard for really a novice like myself to know what is fact, what is truth, where should I begin? So rather than standing here today and proposing a 5-point plan about what we as a congregation should be doing, I'd like to instead offer an idea that I wish hadn't taken me so long to propose. With that book and a few others, I have embarked on a learning journey about Israel-Palestine, and I'd like to invite those of you who are interested to join me in that journey. I imagine that this effort will begin as a kind of learning and listening circle in which we seek to educate ourselves before we attempt to take a single stand on one side or the other of the conflict or advocate for specific policy changes. I want this learning circle to welcome all perspectives and voices and to center the experiences of the people on both sides whose lives have been most impacted by war and violence. At some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, I hope this learning circle will evolve into a vibrant part of our social justice ministry. I don't know if a congregation like UUCville will or can become an instrument of peace in the Middle East, but I know that we are more likely to make a positive difference if our work is rooted in learning, listening, and understanding. If you are interested in being part of this journey, part of this circle, or have ideas or suggestions, please do be in touch with me. Please be in touch with me. My email is tim@ucharlottesville.org, pretty easy to remember, and I really look forward to hearing from you. So let me simply conclude by saying that the work of peace and justice is complicated and so very challenging. It takes humility, willingness to learn, a desire to grow, and the resilience to stay engaged. But in a world with so much suffering, so much pain, and so much heartache, what choice do we have? We can't sit back or wait for others to do the hard work. We may not succeed. I'm not even sure I know what success looks like. And there may not be peace in the Middle East in our lifetimes. But I believe we Unitarian Universalists are called to be peace and justice makers. Of course, with an issue as emotionally fraught as the conflict in Israel and Palestine, there are risks. We'll disagree. Some of those disagreements might even become divisive. But I believe that this congregation can do this work with love, with empathy, and with understanding. It's a long journey, but a journey we can and must make together. With your help, let's make a beginning. Amen, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you. So let's now rise in body or spirit and join in singing one of my favorite hymns about peace. It's number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. Please rise, the lyrics will be on the screen. Such a beautiful hymn. I'd like to invite you to join with me in saying this morning's benediction. It comes from one of our Universalist forebears, the Reverend Olympia Brown, who is the first woman in the history of this country to be ordained into the ministry by a denomination, in this case, the Universalists. And Reverend Brown, after she retired from ministry, became a great activist, especially in the women's suffrage movement. But she wrote these timeless words about war and peace, and I'd like you to say them with me. We can never make the world safe by fighting. Every nation must learn that the people of all nations are children of God and must share the wealth of the world. You may say this is impracticable, far away, can never be accomplished, but it is the work we are appointed to do. Sometime, somehow, somewhere, we must ever teach this great lesson. Truer words were never spoken. Friends, be well, take very good care of yourselves, of each other, and of the world. Just a reminder, I hope to see some of you at the Newcomer Circle, and please don't forget to sign that really big card. You'll see it, it's really big, for Sean. Blessed be, and go in peace.
say hi.
There, now you can talk.
I want them to hear me better. Hi. 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 Hi.
It may not, and once the music's over, it'll probably be open so you can talk.
Hi. 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 Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so she can hear you.
Okay, good. Only one person.
Hi, it's nice to hear your voice.
Hi.
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 Did you go outside and have a beautiful day today?
Yes, I did.
Yes, we had a beautiful day.